Welcome on in, folks. It's Natasha Varela, the Moneyista, 13 years in the large business and international division of the Internal Revenue Service, 20 years total in audit, accounting, and tax, business owner, real estate investor, former revenue agent, and current enrolled agent. So I want to talk about innocent spousal relief. And a lot of times I don't really get into, taxes and finances as it relates to relationships, but this one kind of touches upon the subject. And I get a lot of it in my DMs asking me questions about what can be done. And so let's go over the innocent spousal relief information that's pretty public on the IRS website. Innocent spouse relief can relieve you from paying additional taxes if your spouse understated taxes due on your joint tax return and you didn't know about the errors. Innocent spouse relief is only for taxes due on your spouse's income from employment or self-employment. You cannot claim relief for taxes due on your own income, household employment taxes, individual shared responsibilities, business taxes, and trust fund recovery penalties for employment taxes. So let's kind of graze the surface on, relationships as it relates to legality, right, which is marriage. A lot of you separate, and you own businesses. So there's no spousal relief for business taxes. So couples oftentimes they start a partnership, right, multi-member LLC, which is an LLC if you're married and both partners are involved. That is a multi-member LLC. And it's treated as a partnership. A lot of times what people do is they separate, whatever have you. They're going through hard times. They're going, towards divorce, and they physically separate, but they don't legally separate. So why is this important? If you are going to separate and you have a business or anything, as it relates to finances, period, credit card debts, outstanding loans, things of that nature, please see a mediator. Please go through the legal channels to separate your finances on the date you separate. Do not just leave, right, physically separating and not handle your financial aspects because you don't know what your spouse is doing. You don't know the funds or the loans your spouse is taking out under the business name and that you're on the hook for because innocent spousal relief is not for business taxes. Okay. So I just want you all to be very, very, very diligent when you're separating. Relationships and finance are a tricky subject. A lot of times emotion overrides logic. If you separate, please get it on paper so that there is a clear line of who is responsible for what, right? Dissolve your portion in the business, immediately. Because again, there will be no relief for you for business taxes, right? And not only that, you have to prove that you didn't know about these errors on the tax return, the joint tax return, right? You do. And it's hard to prove a lot of times, right? Because you physically separated, but you did not legally separate. And it's easier to show the IRS paperwork from a judge or a mediator than it is just to say, well, I moved out and I have a different address. I'm all for documentation. I'm all for being strong in your position. I encourage people who decide to separate, please go to the appropriate legal authorities and make sure that your finances from that date are separate so that you are responsible for what you incur. Your partner is responsible for what they incur, and anything that is incurred by the both of you is handled right then and there. So this way you're not on the hook for additional items that are incurred or expenses or debts or taxes. Okay. Again, please don't approach this from an emotional standpoint. Taxes are things that can absolutely ruin your chances of building wealth through the tax code, right? When you owe taxes, you won't get your tax refunds moving forward because the IRS will snatch it and put it towards your taxes due for prior years, which may be because your spouse incurred, taxes, a tax liability, right? So, and a lot of times the innocent spouse never really gained from the income under which those taxes are due. So I just want people to be a little bit more prudent, a little bit more diligent. You can go on the IRS website. It is very, very clear. Innocent spousal relief is not for business taxes, okay, or your own income, okay, and any individual shared responsibilities. It's very, very, very clear cut. Come with as much documentation as possible. Again, if you decide to separate, go to a mediation. I know emotions are high, but you can recover from a heartbreak, but you can't recover necessarily that easy from a financial break. All right. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. I will put the link to the Tax Strategies Mastermind in the description box. Feel free to join. It is tax deductible to business owners and real estate investors. You do have access to me via a private Facebook group and a dedicated email to ask any and all questions you so choose, as long as they're related to tax. Okay, so this was just kind of one of those situations where, love meets finance. Okay. All right, guys. See you later.